You know that moment when something goes wrong? The plans fall apart, someone's upset, the room gets awkward, and before anyone even says a word, you're already fixing it. Chairs moved, problem handled, crisis neutralized, no speech, no drama, just done. And then someone says, "Wow, you're so calm," like it's a personality trait you picked up last year. If you grew up in the 70s or 80s, that calm probably wasn't learned in a mindfulness app. It was learned because things didn't pause back then. Adults were busy, feelings weren't discussed, and you figured out pretty early that the world kept moving whether you were ready or not. What most people miss is that this didn't make you cold or detached. It made you strategic, quietly capable, emotionally efficient, and that shows up in ways people misunderstand all the time. Let's start with something familiar. You're the person who doesn't panic, but you also don't vent. When something breaks, you fix it. When someone's overwhelmed, you step in. You don't need a group discussion. You need 5 minutes and a screwdriver. That habit came from growing up when help often meant figure it out. So your brain learned a shortcut. Action first, emotion later. Or sometimes, emotion never gets an appointment. From the outside, it looks like you don't feel things deeply. In reality, you just learned that feelings don't solve problems. You do. Then there's your relationship with emotions. You don't overshare. You don't trauma dump. You don't process out loud. You might rehearse conversations in your head for days and still say only half of it. That's not emotional unavailability. That's emotional privacy. You grew up in a time when expressing feelings could feel risky, inconvenient, or pointless. So you became your own container. You hold things until they make sense. The irony? People often mistake that control for distance, when it's actually care with boundaries. And let's talk about your skepticism. You don't trust hype. You don't fall for big promises. You wait. You watch. You notice patterns. When someone says, "This will change everything," your brain quietly asks, "For how long?" That's not negativity. That's pattern recognition. You lived through enough next big things to know most of them weren't. So instead of believing words, you track behavior. You don't need excitement. You need consistency. And yes, that makes you harder to impress, but also harder to manipulate. Another thing people miss? How you show loyalty. You're not loud about it. You don't post tributes. You don't make speeches. But if someone calls you at 2 a.m., you answer. If they need help moving, fixing, rebuilding, you're there. That's because you learned love through presence, not performance. Back then, care wasn't announced. It showed up. So when you commit, it's quiet, durable, and long-term. People who expect constant reassurance might miss it. But the ones who need reliability feel it immediately. And then there's your strange relationship with the past. You remember details other people don't. Old songs, the smell of a room, how something felt before everything was online and optimized. You don't chase nostalgia loudly, but you keep pieces of it close. Objects, routines, preferences that never needed an upgrade. That's not being stuck. That's grounding. When the world changes too fast, you anchor yourself to what's proven, to what lasted, and that gives you a kind of steadiness that's rare now. Here's the twist most people never see. What gets labeled as emotionally distant, too independent, or hard to read is actually a survival style that worked really well. You learn to regulate yourself, to stay functional, to not fall apart when no one was coming to save you. That doesn't mean you don't need connection. It means you learned not to depend on chaos to feel alive. But here's the quiet truth. Just because you can carry everything alone doesn't mean you have to. Awareness isn't about changing who you are. It's about finally understanding why you became this way. and choosing when to soften, when to hold, and when to let someone else take the wheel. So which part sounded like you? The fixer, the private processor, the pattern watcher, the loyal one who never makes a scene, or the person who remembers a world that didn't need constant explaining? If this felt uncomfortably accurate, you're not alone. And if you want more insights like this, stick around. There's a lot more hiding in plain sight.